pipeline to many additional funding opportunities. And we'll touch on a few of them today. We spend a lot of time in our program in our last session talking about, what funding opportunities come after I-Corps. But what's important to know for this national program that was created, it was open to only really to faculty at universities and those that had previous National Science Foundation funding within the previous 5 years. So if you're a faculty and you had DoD funding, or you had NIH funding, or you're a student, you could not participate in the national program. It was only for those NSF teams that were funded. Next slide, Mark. So they realized this program was super successful, creating startup companies and funding, and most important, getting innovations out of the lab, getting them to benefit society, saving lives, impacting people across the world. So it was a successful program, but how did they scale it? If it was only before open to people that had NSF funding, what could they do to make this program be out there and open to more? And that's where our I-Corps, the SITE program comes about. And the goals of the SITES program and even the main I-Corps program is really, again, I mentioned, increase that impact, further expand ecosystems so that faculty and their students had other resources that they could get. As many of you know, when you're an entrepreneur and you're creating a startup company, it's really hard to get funding and to really take that next step because there's a lot of risk involved. I-Corps helps take some of that risk out. It gives you much more knowledge about business concepts and things. It really moves your innovation along that pipeline of commercialization. And that was a key goal of I-Corps. And another goal, and one that we see all the time with our local Rutgers I-Corps site program, is increasing network opportunities. In order to be an entrepreneur, you need to have resources beyond yourself. You need to have a team. You need to be able to get out into the community, to get funding, to get a place, to get other resources. And the I-Corps program, the national program, and our site program is all about networking and making connections. So not only between other scientists, but with people in the business space, funders, and all these things together, this ecosystem and helping you decrease the commercialization risk and learning about your customer. All these things, what they did is bridging that gap. So getting the innovation out of the lab and into the marketplace. And we're going to get into more detail about how that happened. Next slide, or how that happens. So we talk about the ecosystem, and I know that word is kind of a cliche, but in I-Corps, they call it the NIN, the NIN, the National Innovation Network. So what started out as 7 or 8 hubs you see here on the map, we're part of the NICRA node, which is the New York City Regional Innovation Network. And after they created these nodes, and these were for the national programs, they expanded the program, and now there are 99 sites across the country. So Rutgers is an official I-Corps site. We're one of only 2 in the state of New Jersey. And we collaborate and we communicate and we work with these other sites and nodes across the country. So if you go from our program eventually to a national program, you could be at one of these sites in another state when we're not virtual. You could be doing it virtually, and it may be happening that someone's teaching out of Texas or teaching out of California or Washington, D.C. So this is the whole network throughout the country, and it's a wonderful network. Next slide. So we're going to kind of work backwards a little bit and give you the benefits of our I-Corps site before we get into the nitty-gritty and the details. Primarily is you're learning about your innovation. So if you're a scientist or a student or a researcher, you're really often focused on the technology. Does it work? How do we do it? How do we start it? How are we building it? But you're not really spending the time and dedication thinking about the customer, or is there a market for your innovation? And that's really what I-Corps is all about. So it's what impact it can have on customers, on the market. Other people really enjoy the program because they learn a different area than what they're focused on. So they learn about business, they learn about, we'll talk about the business model canvas and ecosystems, and we'll talk about, markets. So it's career development. You're learning skills that you don't necessarily have. Soft skills are learned through the program, how to pitch, how to interview people. You see one of our teams on the right presenting. You'll be presenting every week if you're in the I-Corps program. Primarily, it's learning about why customers care about your innovation. Can what you're building or working on be modified to solve a problem? Sometimes what you're working on is great. Other times it does need a little tweaking. You may be looking at one customer segment and it needs to be another, but you will learn why customers care about what you're building. And we call it failing fast if things aren't working so great. And typically I-Corps we don't see failures, we see more or less tweaks, but it's better to learn before you spend a lot of time or money on your innovation. It's better to learn early, and that's why we say failing fast. And once again, collaborations. We do a cohort mentality, so all our teams support each other. We typically have about 10 teams in a cohort. And as you can see on, this virtual webinar right now, we have people from throughout the university at all levels, and you all have a great network of contacts. And within our cohort, teams share amongst each other. So that's one of the huge benefits of I-Corps. And these aren't us, these are what our teams have shared with us, these benefits. So I wanted to share them with you. And these are pictures just from the one on the left. We were in the Institute for Food, Nutrition, and Health on Cook campus, so we would move around. So just a few pictures of our teams. Next slide. So I'm going to turn it over to Mark, and he's going to talk about the methodology behind the I-Corps program.
Right. Thanks, Lori. So yeah, the whole I-Corps program is based off the Lean Launchpad class that was coming out of Stanford University by Steve Blank, this gentleman in the bottom right. And his focus for his, I think they were business school students, was, a lot of people have these great ideas about what their innovation can do and why people would love it, but they would never really venture out and find out. So he always says, and he's the big cheerleader for this, he says, there are no facts inside the building. You got to get out of the building. And so you use the scientific method through experimenting, by testing certain hypotheses about what you think your best customer is or why you think your technology offers value to your customer, and a whole range of other questions that you have. So that way you test your assumptions in the market long before you spend months or years and hundreds or thousands or millions of dollars building your prototype. And so you want to get customer feedback before building it. And so our program, and even at the national program, they focus on a flipped classroom approach where you watch these videos about these very simple business concepts. It's not like a STEM class, or like a chemistry class where you really need someone to really go over it with you in very detailed setting. You can watch these videos. They're like 3-5 minute, or even some of them are like a minute video about these simple business concepts that you learn ahead of time. So that way, when we come to class and we do these weekly presentations and we focus on what you learned from your customer discovery interviews, from getting out of the building. And like Lori said, the cohort encourages peer learning. So not everybody is the smartest person in the room. There's a lot of smart people, but they all have different experiences, different networks, different connections. And so you have to learn to kind of learn how to collaborate with others and network and speak in a way that can get you the answers that you're looking for, or get you to the resources that you're looking for, or connections. And again, it's about professional development, and we do some interactive exercises in each class. So each class has a lecture, like a short lecture, an interactive exercise, and some presentations. Now, this is the picture of the business model canvas. Basically, any business can be boiled down to these 9 components. And usually we start from the right of the canvas, talking about your customers, and moving to the left. But the center of the whole business model canvas is your value proposition, what you offer to your customer, right? And so in our site program, the red circle, we focus on just the customer segments and the value propositions. Okay, but at the National I-Corps program, we extend the exploration to all 9 parts of the canvas. But basically, what we think is that if you can't get the customer segments and the value propositions right, you shouldn't go on. Like you have to get that right first. And I've seen in the National I-Corps program, people struggle with the customer segments and value propositions. That's where they have to pivot. So we'd rather have you pivot in our site program before moving you on to the national program. But in both cases, you'll get the experience and the skill development and the, the kind of confidence to move forward. And so our program runs about 5 weeks, and each week has a different theme, whether it's customer discovery, the value propositions. We talk about what these concepts are and what they're not. And the week 3 is about customers, users, and payers. Pretty much the whole ecosystem of not just who would buy your product or service, who would recommend it, who would use it. Sometimes sometimes the person who pays for it is not the person who uses it. So we help you kind of flesh out these ideas about the whole ecosystem, the market ecosystem. And then during the 4th week, we have we don't have a Friday session for that week, but we do have a required 15-minute office hours for each team. So that way you get some dedicated time with the teaching team to have a long discussion, because in the session itself, there's not much time to focus on each, so like feedback for each team that presents. So that's why we have this required office hours. And then in the final session, we talk about the next steps and do introductions into the innovation entrepreneurship ecosystem at Rutgers and beyond. So these are how they usually work. And since COVID happened, we typically have 1 session per week, but because of COVID, we had to transition to a virtual setting. So we have mostly Friday mornings, and we have some Tuesdays, and I think we have a Thursday in there, but I have the schedule later on. Now, one of the unique things about our I-Corps program is that we offer $2,500 for reimbursable expenses. So that means you have to pay for it up front, and then we can reimburse you, but you have to kind of get approvals from us first before you spend the funds. Otherwise, you'll likely not get reimbursed. But the idea is, when we were doing stuff in person, customer discovery in person, meeting with these potential customers, we actually had to travel. So we got on train, get on a plane, take Uber, take Lyft, just to meet face-to-face with people on site. So, it's good. It's interesting to get a phone call, but it's much more, you could see a lot more when you go on site to a, deep technology department where, let's say they have a manufacturing floor and you want to develop this instrument that will be used there. You want to see how your technology could potentially fit in the workflow, or maybe it's not even in that building and it's in another building. So a lot of these researchers don't have an understanding of where their technology could fit because they never thought about it. And so we help you focus and get these answers sooner rather than later. So like I said, before COVID, it was travel to and from, like train, airfare, hotel, tolls, and meeting at trade expos where you can be in a room with hundreds of people. But because of COVID, we're not able to stay in a room with more than 25% capacity right now. So we refer you guys to do these virtual conferences or do professional memberships or virtual tools to help you meet potential customers, and even LinkedIn Premium. But the guiding principle behind this customer discovery expenses is to get in front of customers and have discussions and have meetings with them. So what's not allowed is lab supplies or equipment, computers, office supplies, and even scientific or technical conference registrations. Academic conferences are not allowed. It's really about trade shows and expos. So this is a team-based program. So these are the 3 key members of the I-Corps team. You only need 2 to apply to actually be accepted, but we recommend that those teams that have all 3 really do much better. So the top one in green is the entrepreneurial lead. This program is built for you. That's typically a student or a grad student or a postdoc who's been working on the innovation, who has an understanding of the technology, but they're really driving the understanding of the market opportunity. Whereas the number 2, the technical lead or the academic lead, is this nutty professor here who actually invented the technology, has filed the patent with the Research Commercialization Office. And they're less likely to kind of create a startup because they are more likely to keep their faculty tenured position at the university. So that's why the entrepreneurial lead, we're kind of almost grooming them to be the CEO of this potential startup company. And the third person in this team is the industry mentor, somebody from outside the university who has been in the market, who has been in industry for many years and has a lot of connections and can open their Rolodex to help introduce the team to these potential customers to do these interviews. Because if you don't have the industry mentor, a lot of these interviews will be kind of like cold calls. So those are much more difficult to do. And so having an industry mentor is definitely helpful. And sometimes if you need help with that, we can help. But Ideally, those who come with your own industry mentor, it's more organic. It's a better fit if you have your own, but we'll definitely do our best to help you.
I want to jump in real quick for the faculty that are on the call with us today. It's important to note that the entrepreneurial lead is the one doing the presenting, and they're required to attend all our in-person sessions. The academic lead, it's strongly suggested they attend, but if you have, your schedule doesn't permit, it's not an absolute requirement. So it's something that our faculty are sometimes hesitant to join because of the time commitment. And really the biggest time commitment is on that entrepreneurial lead. We have had faculty be entrepreneurial leads, and if that is the case, then they do have the same time requirement. But if you're taking that academic lead role, there's a little bit less time commitment on you, and that's important. Same thing with the mentors. We recommend you attend as many sessions as possible, but it's not an absolute requirement that you be at every session. But the more participation you have, the better your team is going to do throughout this process.
Right. And the idea behind the academic lead, not just participating in the sessions, the virtual sessions where you meet with all the other teams, but even in the customer discovery interviews, those, you should do your best to participate in them as well, because you'll get a deeper understanding of what because you as the inventor, you know what your technology can do and what it can't do, whereas the entrepreneurial lead is just kind of like working in the lab, but they're not the inventors. So having you in those meetings can actually create new potential collaborations or partnerships that if you're not there, it might be slower to happen. So it's really exciting for those faculty who participate. And by the way, in the national I-Corps program, it is required for all of these 3 team members to meet at every single session. So we are more lenient because we want to get you kind of groomed for the process, but at the national, they don't mess around. It's official. So you really have to go.
And it's fun because you actually are taking off your researcher, your academic hat, and putting it aside and putting on a new hat, which is entrepreneur and commercialization potential, and kind of getting really focused time to dedicate to thinking about that value proposition and that customer segment, and not so much on the innovation itself. And we don't require confidentiality agreements for that reason, because you're not supposed to talk in detail about your innovation. You're supposed to really be focusing on problems that customers have.
Great.
So let me throw in and also comment about the team makeup. National level requires all 3. We want you to have 2 of the positions filled, but there might be people that are listening, have come to the info session here that are solo. And we would, as the teaching team, work to find you or work with you to find a collaborator. Maybe there'd be a way to find an entrepreneurial lead, a student who could join your and work on your idea, or there might be in our Rolodex a way to reach out to someone from outside, an alum or someone who could be a mentor, even if you were solo at this point. So I would urge you to apply, get the conversation started, and we can help build teams.
That's a great point. We had somebody apply last time as a solopreneur, and it ended up that they decided that rather than run through the program with their innovation, they preferred to join another team. And this person actually became an industry mentor for another team and is now hoping to join a national team in that same role. So that's a great point. Thank you, Dunbar.
Great. And so, the requirements to participate, like I said, you need at least 2 members. You should have a STEM related or STEM-based innovation that's typically funded by NSF, whether it's a biological or life science or, engineering, medical device or software innovation, things like that. But what's most important, and this is what we do with the interview process, is we find out about your passion and your dedicated time to focus on learning about the market need for your innovation. A lot of scientists sometimes focus on, we're going to sell this technology to who? Anyone who wants it. But they don't really think about it. But we want to give you the time and the tools to make sure you have a better understanding of how to do that. So the online application is at I-Corps.rutgers.edu. There's a little, it's in the chat. Great. There's a button at the bottom left that says apply here. And you can actually, if you click that apply here, you'll see the PDF version of the application if you want to print it out and figure out your answers later. But the second part is this team interview with the I-Corps leadership team to determine whether you're ready for the program or if you want to do it at another time. We want to make sure that you have a really productive I-Corps experience. And so some of the comments that we got from a lot of our participants is they end up learning these 4 new things. They get new thinking, new skills, meet new people, and have new opportunities, right? And so, we've copied these from the surveys that they say they've cultivated confidence and open-mindedness. They improved their presentation skills and learned how to interview customers, and the importance of networking. A lot of students focus on just learning the math or learning the science, and that's it. No, like networking is very, very important, and it's not stressed enough. And so in our I-Corps program, not only do we talk about it, but we train you how to do it effectively with some of the interactive exercises, and it becomes a habit and you become better. But at the end, we introduce you to new opportunities that get you out of your comfort zone, and new funding opportunities, new skills development, things like that.
And that's important, getting out of your comfort zone, because that's how you learn. Interviewing is not comfortable for hardly anybody, but those who do it really get a lot better at it. They learn a ton. And by getting out of your comfort zone is how you grow and learn. And you get really good at it if you do it enough.
Right. And so, our applications are open, which we've said before, but the application deadline is September 24th. So you've got about 2 weeks from today. We are running it virtually from mid-October to mid-November. The dates are here on the right. If you need that, just let us know, but we can talk to you about it. But, it's on the website now, right, Lori, the I-Corps website. We do have a cohort every semester, and we typically accept 10 teams. So the later you wait, it is a rolling basis. So the later you wait, the cohort might be filled up. So just think about, if you really want to go now, like let's say the stars aligned and you're ready to do it starting mid-October to mid-November, then apply now. If you are thinking maybe next spring, or you're going to be on sabbatical in the summer, then you could do it later. But just take the time to apply, or even email us and talk with us afterwards. Now, there's some opportunities here for diversity and inclusion, which I want to mention. There's another type of, we ran a pilot last cohort, which was pretty successful, and we want to extend it to this Rutgers I-Corps Fellowship. So we received a supplement to encourage more diversity and inclusion for underrepresented groups to participate in our I-Corps program. And so we offer a stipend for these underrepresented groups to participate in an educational experience to learn about these innovation and commercialization processes at Rutgers. And so the idea behind the fellowship is you can observe and kind of participate. We can match you with a team based on your experience and your what you're willing to do. But the idea is that you can observe, you can do as little as observe, just be in the room and just watch. But as time goes on, you might be more comfortable to try, let's say, doing your own interview, or try maybe even presenting, but you actually become part of the team. And so we know that it's not your innovation, so we can understand the challenge with that, but we want to encourage you to take this opportunity to step up to the plate and really give it your go, and give a significant a contribution to innovation and entrepreneurship at Rutgers, or at any of these teams. So there's 2 types. So you can be a team member, where you're part of a team, like I mentioned earlier, or you can be a cohort, an ecosystem fellow, someone who actually observes and works with the leadership team to run and manage the cohort. And you can actually see behind the scenes, how we kind of evaluate all the teams, and how we provide guidance and help and support and all those things. So that's also a really unique experience. We had great fellows work with us last cohort, and we want to get more. And so we have this I-Corps Fellowship application. Lori, if you could put this Qualtrics survey link in the chat. Okay, great.
Yep.
So it's simple. Just name your name and email, contact details, but your leadership experience, any experience you have with innovation and entrepreneurship, or startups, or product development, or prototyping, and your resume and LinkedIn profile. So, we anticipate to get several applications for this, and so we want to let you know that if you're selected, we'll set up a virtual meeting to interview you and set you up with a team, if that's what you're looking for, or meet the teaching team if that's what you're looking for.
The question on how long does the program for the fellowship run?
So it's during the cohort. So it's from middle of October to mid-November. But there's actually a week afterwards where you kind of do a final presentation about what you learned, and some reflection on what you got out of the program, and a little bit in advance, because we have to set you up with meeting the team in advance. So it's about 5 weeks, and the stipend is $1,000. So really it's focus, the money is one thing, but really it's the experience that is almost like priceless, because otherwise you wouldn't really have this opportunity. So we want to connect these underrepresented groups with this unique opportunity to hopefully get them innovating in the next cohort or in a future cohort.
So we got a few more questions real quick, and then I'll let you continue. Someone asked about if their research needs to be funded by the NSF, and what if it's funded by another government agency. So for our Rutgers I-Corps site program, it does not need to be funded by any agency. We will take all types of scientific innovations. The national program, which is like, we're considered a short course, theirs is a longer course, has that any NSF lineage requirement, and we fulfill that. So once you complete our course, then you can go to nationals, or if you had previous NSF research within 5 years, you can then go to nationals and skip our program, but we don't recommend it because our program really gives you the tools to do better in national, but it is a pipeline. So you can go direct if you have NSF research. So then now I'm reading, how developed do team ideas have to be to enter the cohort? I'm going to throw that one to Dunbar and let him answer that one, just to get my voice off of here.
Well, so I think that very early stage ideas would be prime because the emphasis that we have on customer discovery gives you a chance to really learn how your idea might fit into the marketplace. And so early in the stage of developing an idea, you might have an easier time redirecting it, adding different features, and satisfying the customer needs. If you get very far along in prototyping before you start this, then you've already invested a bunch of time in changing direction. So early ideas are still good.
Hi, can I also ask a question here?
Oh, hi, Janice. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Nice to meet you. My name is Janice, and I'm one of the campus directors for Holt Prize Foundation at Rutgers. We're a global pitch competition, and I'm sure you've heard of us once or twice in the Entrepreneurial Society. But I was wondering if there were any opportunities for, students who are interested in competing in the Holt Prize to also work with I-Corps. Like, do you guys have any other sub-programs or any opportunities that you think would be helpful? And if there's any way that Holt Prize can also help I-Corps?
I was, curious about what was going on. Actually, in the chat, we, conversed back and forth about the topic that you're attacking. It's from my recollection, the Holt Prize goes through the full academic year, right? And so there might be some milestones along the way. I could imagine that given the structure that we have, where we have a fall cohort and a spring cohort, that there might be, I don't know how far along your teams might be in developing their food for good ideas, but even now, if the teams are formed and are trying to evaluate an idea, it might fit even in this cohort. But obviously, I don't know enough about how you run the Holt Prize, how many students there are. It's a super competition, and we've had really great success with teams in the past, and so I could see your teams participating with ours having maybe a leg up in competing for their prizes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we sometimes run ancillary programs. So we've ran a program with the patent librarian who did patent searches, and we open these up to the entire university. We're running one now on prototyping. So any of the programs that we run, a lot of times it's to encourage teams to apply to I-Corps, and we do a 5-minute I-Corps commercial, but sometimes it's for our previous teams to help them. So any of the programs that we run, we open up to everybody, and we would certainly, I try to get as much communication out to student groups as possible. So we're inclusive in that manner. So there's other opportunities based on other programs we may run or that we hear about. So we would love to, participate with you as much as possible.
Yeah, the other thing I would just like to add is that the guiding principle, I guess, behind NSF and the I-Corps brand is to focus on deep technology innovations. Mm-hmm. So some of the Holt Prize innovations are maybe deep technology, but some may not be. Mm-hmm. So that's not to say that, because like Lori said, we do have some of these other programs that we offer for post I-Corps kind of opportunities. And so we could definitely include you in those kind of invitations and work with you on that.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Set up, maybe,
Oh, yes, Dunbar?
I was just going to suggest that we set up a time to talk more specifically, just so that we could learn about the Holt Prize cycle, and then maybe there are specific times during the year where there's a good fit.
Yes, absolutely. I don't want to take up too much of like the audience's time, but it's a little related. So I guess I could just explain a little bit. But essentially, the competition for on campus is in December, and then teams get sent out to regionals, which is sometime in March. Which normally they're flown out like all over the world. Like I competed last year and was going to go to Mexico to compete. But I think as a campus director this year, it'd be amazing to kind of introduce I-Corps to our programs and see if teams want to compete in any of the programs that you guys offer, or if they might want to continue more market and target market research with their customers after initial competition. So I would totally love to have a separate conversation about this.
We'd be happy to send somebody to talk to you. And I know Umair Masood very well, so I know you guys and you do great work. So we'd be happy to do that separately. Absolutely.
And there are maybe other potential collaborators who want to collaborate with us in a similar fashion. You've got a program that you kind of want to work with I-Corps, definitely email us. Because right now there's like a lot of people, so we don't want to lose anybody. So if you email us at icorps@ored.rutgers.edu, it's there, the email, then we can follow up with you after the fact. Are there any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, there. Thanks, Lori. So yeah.
So there was a question in the chat about what other kinds of ideas have been, tried to commercialize in the past, and so that it just is so wide ranging. There have been medical imaging technologies. We had a company called Nano Inc. last cohort. We've had sort of biomedical devices, implants. We've had health food kinds of things. That we've had drones for agriculture. Really, really wide ranging. So there's this idea that might connect somehow to NSF is in some kind of a STEM area is very not much of a restriction, because the NSF funds things in so many different technology areas.
Yeah, NSF is very flexible on what STEM-based means, or STEM-related. So we welcome them. Definitely, educational innovations are considered. So I would recommend that if you have the team and you want to apply, that's great. But definitely we consider that, because NSF's one of their missions is to help educate America's children, especially in STEM. So definitely we've had those too. So
yeah, you can see a list. They really are far ranging. A list of our former teams. I put the link in there on our website. And some of them have had some good successes already. We've had teams that formed companies, created apps, got funding from the Small Business Association, over $1 million. So we've had a lot of really good successes, and it takes some time, but I think everybody that's been through the program has learned something and has really, as Mark said, gained confidence in their own skills and what they felt comfortable with about their innovation and the market for their innovation. Connie, anything you want to add? Yes, so you're off mute.
Yes, I'm just listening to everybody, and I didn't have anything to add. Again, if software applications count, if you're thinking of software, there's going to be innovations there. I noticed there's Alvin wants to know about educational innovations. Yeah, we've had a number of education innovations. We had the coffee made straws. So it really does run the gamut. And if it sounds like a lot of work and it sounds scary, then you should probably do it, because that's the thing you need to do if you're an entrepreneur. You got to walk firmly into the face of things that look hard and sound scary.
Yeah, so think about it. What we find is a lot of faculty or even student entrepreneurs, they're working on their innovation by themselves. you know, whether it's in their garage or in their lab, and they're just there all day, every day, and they don't talk to anybody about it, and they're just working on their own. This way is through I-Corps, you're able to participate in a cohort with an interdisciplinary group of people who are all focusing on the same customer discovery I-Corps process, and nobody's an expert in customer discovery. Everybody's learning together, and you get better, and that's the whole point. It's like you all work together and you help each other, you give feedback to each other. We use this, I think I forgot to put it in there. We use a software program called Innovation Within, which helps track the interviews that you do. So you can put the questions that you ask and the answers that people answer in the Innovation Within, because the idea of a customer discovery interview is not to show them what you're working on and sell your technology. It's not like that. You really want to understand what the problem is out in the real world to see if your innovation can help solve that problem. So it's opposite. You're not selling, you're actually understanding through empathy and communication. And even if you can go on site whenever the pandemic is finished, to go on site and actually see, maybe through Zoom, whatever, you could see the facilities that they're using and how much of a struggle it is. How much extra is it costing? How many man hours is it taking? How many extra people do they have to hire to solve this problem? And if your innovation can help save time, save money, what value is your technology offering? That's what we really want to have an understanding, not just from one person, but at least 25. And then in the National I-Corps, they focus on getting 100 interviews over the course of 7 weeks. So again, we're all working together to get you trained up so you can really have confidence moving forward, whether you should move forward in your innovation or pivot or just slightly tweak. So we do our best to help you.
So there's a question about the fellowship, about the difference between being a team member and being a cohort and ecosystem. Okay,
so good question. So if you're on a team, right, let's say you're a team 906. So you've got an innovation that you've got a software innovation that is based on education and technologies, right? And so you're going to focus your time and your efforts on meeting with that team, understanding a little bit about the innovation, but more about the market, and meeting with those people, whether you're leading the interview or you're setting up the interviews or whatever, but you're helping the team get those interviews and get them done. And if you feel confident, you can even help be part of the presentation part during the sessions. But if you're on the cohort and ecosystem I-Corps fellow, then you're working more closely with the teaching team, kind of like running and managing the cohort on Zoom, just like we're doing now. You might help with the chat, or you might help with the timing. We've got a very rigid schedule. So if we're behind schedule, you keep us on track and things like that. But you also get to see the feedback that the teaching team gives about each of the teams. And we speak internally about it, but you're privy to those conversations and you understand the mentality and the thinking that goes behind the help that we give to our teams. So you see it from a different perspective, but you're not associated with any one team. You're in fact helping the teaching team.
So there's a question about disclosing proprietary and sensitive information. So we tell all our teams that as Mark said, you're not selling your innovation. So we do not want you to present any enabling information. If teams have filed a patent with the patent office, the research commercialization office, they have a lot more freedom to talk. If you haven't, you really shouldn't be talking about anything enabling. The only time we really have recommended or have utilized confidentiality agreements, sometimes a team wants to give more details to their industry mentor, and this may be information that isn't covered under a patent. And in those cases, we can provide you with a template for a confidentiality agreement. But the whole idea of the program is to talk to customers about their problems, about what innovations they're using now, what things they would like to see, what could be better, what could help them, and not to say, I have this widget, it's green, it does this, it does that, and talk about what you have. You're really listening to the potential customer, the user, or the payer, and learning from them. And we also, recommend to our teams within our cohort, what we say in the cohort stays within the cohort, but we do not have our cohort members sign any confidentiality agreement. So I would say if you're concerned about anything, you shouldn't be speaking about it. And if you can, and it's the right time for you, you should file for your intellectual property, and we can connect you with people as well about that.
So it's worthwhile making a distinction between student inventions and faculty inventions also.
Right.
Faculty inventions would have to be filed through Rutgers, and it's a good idea to get that started even if you're not facing a conference publication or something like that, because they can help potentially put a provisional in or other kind of protection. Students, on the other hand, are not required to file with Rutgers. Students own their ideas, and there's no danger in participating in this program. Rutgers isn't going to claim your student ideas after this program. You are just doing this as an educational activity, but still, you might consider if you are really worried about your idea, finding a patent lawyer and maybe progressing with filing a provisional patent if you really are going to move forward with something. So, so we can talk offline more about that, but the student and faculty have different tracks and different rules.
And I am going to paste in the chat the student patent policy. A lot of people may not know that it's out there. That shows that, undergraduates do have control of their own innovations. So I'm
It's
going
a bit fuzzy for graduate students because graduate students, well, no, it's not fuzzy. Most graduate students are hired into faculty research groups, and at that point, they are Rutgers employees and are required to file through the Rutgers Tech Transfer Office.
basically, if you're getting paid, typically, if you have a job or you're getting research funding, then the university owns your intellectual property. If you're paying us, so if you're paying tuition
That's
and not
right.
getting funding, that typically means you own your own patent. That's kind of just a real down and dirty way of determining.
Yeah.
But it's not required that you have IP to come into our program. It may be an early idea and you're trying to even figure out what is it that the customer needs, and then you can design and fine tune and tweak.
We had one team, I-Corps, remember those? They had just an idea, and they were 2 years, that was 2.5 years ago, and they're now just getting to, I think, a prototype. So they went through it a long time ago just to get their idea underway. The other thing I wanted to also add is that a couple things. This program gives you an opportunity to create some relationships with the Tech Transfer Office and the IP policy people and all that, which is invaluable because it is kind of Byzantine and you need help getting through that process. But also we create a very psychologically safe environment, we hope, for all of our teams within the cohort. But that also means we give kind of radical candor, so it's pretty direct criticism, but it's like, it's not, so again, we're not necessarily always going to say things that are going to, they may hurt your feelings, they may threaten your idea, but it's always said with affection, of course, kind of thing. So
the idea is we want to move you closer to where you need to go in terms of
Right.
better understanding what the market is, and rather than, if we see you're selling your technology, we're going to say, no, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
We're going to tell you straight up. Not
Yeah.
like, oh, you could do it. No, like you're doing it wrong. This is what we don't want you to do. So that way you focus on doing it the right way sooner, because we don't want you to just mess around. Because we are actually very nice in the national I-Corps. If you ever get to that stage, they will cut you off. They will interrupt you. They will challenge you and really push you.
well, we do all those things too, though, Mark.
Yeah, I know.
We're just nicer when we do them.
Right.
And there's
so-
different levels of nice. So we always joke around, don't talk to your grandma or your best friend and tell them about your innovation, because they love you and they're going to tell you that what you got is great. We'll tell you with a smile it's not so great. We'll be honest, but we're reasonably nice about it. But you want to move that innovation forward, and we want to do it, honestly and fairly, and we will tell you straight out if you're moving in the wrong direction, or you need to be. Typically, you need to kind of go a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just want to wrap up. If anyone has wants to apply, please go to the I-Corps.Rutgers.edu website. If you know of someone who hasn't heard about I-Corps, or you think this would be good for them, please send them there or have them email us. I did want to mention a couple other upcoming events. We have next Wednesday, this upcoming virtual event. It's called Find Funding Fast. So we saw a lot of faculty and postdoc and grad students who are on this call. So the idea is Tanya Volkert from the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs. She is a pro Pivot user, and she's a trainer for Pivot to help show how this Pivot software can help you keep up to date with funding opportunities, automate searches for your grants that you're looking for that are relevant to your topic area, and also get funding opportunities sent directly to your inbox. Because if you've seen, sometimes it's hard to find these. So this will be next Wednesday. I'll send you a kind of invitation if you want to attend that one as well. I know that those who are part of Rutgers have access to Pivot. I'm not sure about those who are on the call who are not, I don't know if Pivot is available to those who are not part of Rutgers, but if you're interested, please join. And we have another info session, like I said earlier, if anyone missed this one and they want to go to the second one, the second one is on September 22nd at 12 noon. We have another info session similar to this, but the idea is by that time, the cohort will probably be more than half filled. So definitely get your application in if you're ready. You can email us if you have questions to ask. The Eventbrite link is at the bottom. So Lori, if you could put that in the chat as well.
I'm one step ahead of you.
Great, thank you. But again, we can't reach everybody. We do our best, but it may not be for you, but it may be for someone that you know. And we do want to encourage all these STEM innovators who have an innovation that can really have an impact on society to really, focus on doing this customer discovery, doing this market research to better understand how you can help make the impact of your innovation, out there in the world rather than in the lab. So, I mean, we can continue if anybody has any questions, but I think that's, we're approaching time. So I just wanted to make sure before people start dropping off, I let everybody know about that.
Has any more questions, just write them in the chat. And if you want to say hello and turn your camera on, we'd love to see you.
If anybody wants to have a verbal question, you can unmute and go on video like Janice did.
So are you sending out a copy of the presentation? I know, Mark, have you recorded it?
Yeah, we recorded it. We recorded some of it. I started the recording late, but I can send out the slides if you need. Okay. Thank you, Vianne. I do have to have a larger discussion with you about that. There may be certain things we have to do for that, but we'll definitely talk.
That would be fun.
Right?
Yeah.
Working with high school students.
Yeah.
I asked this question about whether if your idea is not, isn't accepted or supported, whether you can be matched with other people's projects.
So you're saying you want to work and be part of another team?
Yes.
So what we recommend is submit your application on the I-Corps website. And if you want to just be part of a team, we can talk to you. So we'd want to find out what kind of experience you have, what you're looking to gain from I-Corps. So, we do everything on a case-by-case basis. But the best way for us to learn about you is through the application.
And again, if the coverage of ideas that fit is very, very broad, and so it would be good to start with ideas that, or sort of area of idea that you might be wanting to pursue, and then that might also help us with matching you or supporting you with other team members.
Okay.
We try to match as best we can with what you're interested in or what teams have applied and things like that. So you might even want to apply in the I-Corps Fellowship program as well. That might be a way you can apply as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Lorenzo, did you have a?
Thanks for the nice presentation. I was unaware about this program. My PI suggested me to follow the presentation. Actually, it's quite interesting. And yeah, we are pioneering new technology for genetic analysis. We have a couple of patents on it. And maybe in the future, probably not this year, but next year, we will be interested in participating in the program. And nothing. That's
What we found, so we've had teams who've actually participated, who went through Tech Advance and QED. And these are accelerator, or these are, I guess, incubator programs run at Rutgers University and in the University Science Center in Philadelphia. And they've said that they wish they did I-Corps sooner. They wish they did I-Corps first. So there's a misconception. A lot of faculty or innovator, researchers think that they have to have a working prototype before they can participate in I-Corps. It's quite the opposite. We argue that you should apply and go through I-Corps before you've even developed your prototype. That way you know what to build. When you meet with these potential customers sooner, you have an understanding of what the market is looking for, rather than you build something and then you have to change it.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it's puts it on its head, but this experience is really helpful sooner rather than later. So I would argue if you're ready to even start thinking about I-Corps, you might want to apply, right? And I mean, one of the things that people have difficulty with is the team. Sometimes they don't have like the time, the team or the time, but the technology itself is not usually the limiting factor. Like the technology readiness level. It's really less relevant than the team. The team is the most important and the time is secondary.
Yeah, and if you put in an application and we talk to you, we'll ask you, can you come at these times? Are you available? What's your schedule like? And if you don't have enough time, we'll say we'll defer you to a future cohort. But we'll have the conversation and we'll talk about the time commitment and all that. But if you don't apply, you're not going to get in. So if you're thinking about it, we encourage you to apply. Worst case scenario, we'll tell you, it might not be the right program for you, or it might be right for you to do it at a different time. But if you're thinking of it and you think it makes sense, you want to try to get in early, because as Mark mentioned, we only have limited spaces. We typically can only do 10 or 11 teams a cohort.
Right.
Hi, sorry, my name's Andrew. I just have a quick sort of question. So we do have like one thing that's already in Tech Advance and another one that's like further behind. And I guess I'm sort of, if we're applying to the program, there's a couple of questions. One, does it sort of matter where we are along that development program? I know you sort of mentioned that they're both, ideas. Or can we sort of apply as the group in a way, because we almost have the two different things that we can work on? And the second one was, you mentioned there's the entrepreneurial lead, the technical lead, and the business person. So should I be encouraging, recruiting one of my graduate students to become the entrepreneurial lead if I don't have one already?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
and I'm going to answer the other question. So you can go through multiple times. It's for the innovation, not the team. But
Okay.
if you go through with one innovation, you will learn the skills. Whether you think you need to go through again with a different innovation, we have had people go through multiple times with different innovations. That's up to you, but the NSF lineage rests with the technology. And typically they require that the entrepreneurial lead now goes through a site program to get into the national program. Regarding Tech Advance, we've had teams that had Tech Advance first. We've had teams that had Tech Advance last after our program. And as Mark mentioned, they said they wish they had went through earlier.
Yeah, so we're literally like a halfway through Tech Advance because we had it, but then we got stalled.
And COVID is, some of our teams have come through because they couldn't do things in the lab and they came to I-Corps when they would have been doing other things. That's fine, and that's great. And they've even considered, they haven't done this, but they've talked about making I-Corps a requirement for Tech Advance. They're not doing it, but they have found that the teams that go through I-Corps are more successful in their commercialization. They just understand the business side and the commercialization side a lot more. And this is a pathway to other opportunities as well. I-Corps leads to national I-Corps. The national I-Corps teams are much more successful in getting Small Business Association, that's the SBIRs and the STTRs, and other funding. There's other funding we'll talk about that is really beneficial, and I-Corps is kind of along that pathway to lead you to those other funding opportunities.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just going to call out Shatal. I know you joined us from the prototyping workshop. Did you have any questions? I know you're at the business school, right?
Hey, yeah, I am. I don't have any questions, but I still, I think, was curious if there was anything I might have missed from the previous session to learn on this one, and I definitely did, so thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah, because we did have like a little commercial, like Lori said earlier, but here we fleshed it out a little bit more. But definitely, if you have teams coming from the business school, we definitely want to encourage them, especially if they have a STEM innovation. We've seen a lot of artificial intelligence, machine learning kind of applications coming from, computer science, but even the business school, right? They're coming from all over. So we definitely want to engage with you guys more.
Yeah, and it's a combination of learning from our sessions, and we give you tools and tips and things that help you. But I think the majority of the learning in I-Corps comes from the teams going out and doing those customer discovery interviews. So you'll get out of the program what you put into it. You will learn something, and if you put a lot in, you'll learn a lot. So we all love it. We've been doing this for 3 years, and it's not getting old. We just love watching the team's progress. And you're probably wondering how can you have a team with an idea and a team with a patent and they're doing the same program? Because we're not judging team versus team, we're judging progress over the 5 weeks. So somebody that has an idea, it may progress even further than someone that has a patented innovation who may learn more about a customer segment than the specific innovation. They learn different things. Faculty learn, they get out of their comfort zone watching their students take the lead sometimes, but you're all going to learn something, but it's a different experience for every team that goes through it.
Great. So I just showed here on the screen the upcoming virtual events. And after that, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. And if anybody has any questions, we're happy to stay on, but it's well past 4 o'clock. So I want to wrap it up. Okay, so please reach out to us, and we look for your applications or your colleagues that you want to refer to us. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care. These were the people who were on our...
Yeah.
You're right, Lori. I should have done this later.
Oh, wait, hold on. You still have someone?
Two people.
Oh, 2 people. I didn't see.
You can
I'm
remove
scheduled
them.
to meet with Mike Fabiano. I think that's Mike here. And he had some questions about the graphene coding. So we've already interviewed, but I wanted to go over to that call if that's okay. We have, I was really impressed with the breadth of groups and inventors. So Mark, you should really take some credit for that, sending out your blasted emails. I think you pulled in some really good new faculty.
And the dean.
Is that a dean?
Yeah, Zinnia. Or, yeah, is it
Yeah. So
Zinnia?
she was
Or
still
assistant
talking
dean?
about educational things.
This
Yeah,
is Mike. Sorry, real quick. Should I remove Mike? Is that Mike Fabiano?
Yes.
Oh, it is Mike. Okay.
My speakers are really low for some reason. So
Okay.
Also,
I listened to as much as I could, but some of it I didn't catch.
Okay. Well, if you have questions, let us know and we can answer them.
Yeah, no, not right now. I signed up to.
Yeah.
Well, so let me
Okay.
talk with the team here for a little bit, and then I'll connect to the Zoom that I set up in just a couple minutes. Okay.
All right, I'll go join that now.
Okay. See you soon. Oh, the same background. What a glorious.
we all match.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, so, I mean, a lot of people were quiet. I don't know if it was like we were very thorough and we answered all the questions or,
I think so.
Everybody's sort of at their own stage and doesn't know exactly where their idea might fit. So like this person, Yvette, was asking, and some almost already sort of feeling like her idea wasn't good enough and she just wants to participate somehow. And so I think it was good we told her to send her idea in somehow, and we'll try and work with her. But, this is what we got to do.
Yeah.
and then the faculty member who has a tech advance already and another idea. And
Yeah.
he could enter two teams, one with different graduate student ELs, even right now.
I've been approaching him for probably, I think 7 years ago or 8 years ago was the first time I approached him to do nationals.
My,
So he's been thinking of this for a really long
Wow.
time. It's Andrew Gao and Guao. There's two of them that are very close names that are working on the same innovation. There's
Oh,
two,
wow.
two
I
agencies, I think.
So I don't know if you got it from that, from that Intium list. Maybe he was one of the inventors on that Intium list that I sent out. Okay.
I'm thinking.
Everybody was on that list, Mark, including Ray Panettiere was on that list.
Yeah.
Dr. Ray.
So
Yeah. So, good group and good questions.
yeah. Cool.
So the next event we have is the pivot one. That happens to fall during a class time, so I won't be able to join that, but I think
Okay.
it's useful.
Sorry, that was when Tanya could do it.
No, that's okay.
And I have it on my calendar and I'm hoping, but I have like all these meetings now coming up for next week and I don't have always control over every schedule. We have 150 people, Dunbar, in the externship program for MBS this semester.
Wow.
Wow.
Double of last semester. So there's like 35 projects. So we've got our hands full.
Wow.
Jeez.
So if you need a alternate mentor or anything like that, let me know for your MBS stuff.
Okay, so can I drop off and I'll go talk with Mike?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye. Do we need anything else?
Thanks, Dunbar. No, I think that's it.
I think it's good.
Okay.
So, yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. And we talked about the prototyping already, so we're great. Thank you, guys.
Bye. Have a good
See
one.
you. Thanks,
Oh,
Connie.
wait, don't drop off yet, Mark. Hold on a
Oh,
second. I just
okay.
got an email. An email literally just popped in from Maricelli.
Oh, shoot.
Okay, I'm gonna go. Drop off.
Okay.
Bye.
I'm curious to what it was. Oh, okay, she's looking for a recommendation letter. Never mind.
Oh, okay.
I did one for her before.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. I thought she was going to be something about,
Yeah.
All right, I got to run too then. I got another 10 more student emails.
Okay. Great.
Great. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Lori.
Good job.
All right. You too. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.